Hi guys, welcome back to another video. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Rini and I share DIY craft and home decor videos. I'm going to share 2 boho planter ideas, so before we dive in, please consider subscribing if you haven't already and click the bell icon to get notified every single time I post a new video. So let's jump right into it. I repurposed this tea canister to make our DIY planter. First off, I removed the lid. Then I took a piece of denim fabric to wrap the container. After making a rough estimate of how much fabric I was going to need, I cut out a strip. I wanted the measurements to be more precise, so I placed the fabric piece on the container to measure the required width. Following the marking, I drew a straight line with a ruler and cut out the excess. Then I started to glue down the denim strip onto the container. To ensure it was nice and straight, I followed the straight edge of the rectangle on the label as a guide. This helped me to align the piece accurately with the container. I applied hot glue along the edges and I also added a small amount of glue to the center. While gluing the fabric down, I pulled it tight to avoid any creases. I went ahead and cut out the extra length. Then I glued down the rest of the fabric to the container. The first step was done. Next, I took this cotton rope which was about 1 centimeter thick. I wanted to glue down small pieces of this rope vertically around the container. I needed about 6 centimeter pieces and I cut a total of 8 pieces. I used one piece as a guide to cut the others. Once all the pieces were cut, I grabbed these mini yarns in 4 different pastel colors. I started wrapping the pieces with the yarn. I also left a bit of space on each end to create little tassels on both sides. After I figured how much I needed to wrap, I secured the yarn at the end with a tiny dab of hot glue and cut off the excess yarn. In the same way, I continued wrapping the rest of the pieces. Instead of mini yarn, you can also use regular yarn or even embroidery floss if you like. Here, I used the same colored yarn to wrap 2 pieces of rope. The rope pieces were slightly too long for the container, so I proceeded to further trim the ends. My goal was to attach the pieces, ensuring there was approximately a half-inch gap from both the top and bottom edges of the container. I grabbed my measuring tape to measure the diameter of the can, which was 24 centimeters. I wanted to glue down the 8 pieces while ensuring equal spacing between them, so I marked intervals of 3 centimeters all around the container. Then I proceeded to glue the pieces vertically onto the container following the markings. I applied the hot glue in thin lines and held each piece down for approximately 5 to 10 seconds. After all the pieces were attached, I grabbed some jute twine. I wrapped the twine around the container to measure its circumference and I wanted the length of the twine to be about double as I was going to tie a braid. I cut off 3 strands of the same length. Then I taped them down to the table. I was creating a classic braid by simply crossing the right strand over the middle and then crossing the left strand over the newly formed middle strand. I continued this braiding pattern while also pulling the strands firmly to make a tight braid. Once the braid was done, I applied some hot glue on the bottom edge of the container and attached one of the ends of the braid. Then I trimmed the excess twine and applied some more hot glue to secure everything in place. I continued wrapping the jute braid all around the base of the container like so. Once it was almost done, I cut off the excess braid and secured the end with hot glue. I made another braid of the same length and started to hot glue it around the top edge of the planter. This gave the planter a more finished look while adding some more boho touch to it. I snipped off the excess braid and glued down the end. This completes our DIY boho denim planter. I love how the pastel colors are complementing the blue denim. For the next DIY planter, I used this terracotta flower pot. Next, I used some powder pink acrylic color to paint the top border of the pot. I wasn't worried about getting a crisp edge because I was planning on covering the remaining surface with jute twine. I painted the rim of the pot as well. After the first coat dried, I applied a second layer of paint. Then I grabbed some jute rope to wrap around the flower pot. I flipped it upside down and started to hot glue the jute rope starting from the bottom of the pot. I was working in small sections and held the rope in place till the glue cooled down. I continued coiling up the rope to cover the base of the pot. After the base was done, I continued wrapping the jute rope tightly around the pot, working my way upwards. I made sure to glue down each section to ensure the jute rope was securely wrapped. Once I covered the entire surface, I cut the excess rope, applied hot glue, and pressed it firmly against the pot to secure it. Next, I grabbed these wooden beads which had an approximate diameter of 1.5 centimeters. I began wrapping some pink colored jute twine into a tiny coil. Next, I glued it to the top of the bead like so. Then I applied some tacky glue to the bead and proceeded wrapping the twine around it. I made sure to wrap the jute twine as closely as possible to avoid any gaps. I intentionally left a small space at the bottom of the bead since I planned to glue it to the pot knowing it wouldn't be visible. I cut off the extra twine and then I gently rolled the bead between my palms to smooth down the fuzziness of the jute. This step gave the bead a more finished look. Following the same process, I continued wrapping some more beads with the same pink jute twine. So I ended up making 6 pink beads. Then I used this green jute twine to wrap 6 more beads. You can also use yarn instead of colored jute if you want. The beads were ready and it was time to glue them onto the pot. I applied a dab of hot glue to the bottom of the bead and pressed it against the pot until the glue dried. I continued to glue the beads to the pot. There was no specific pattern. I was trying to evenly distribute them throughout the surface of the pot simply by eyeballing it. This completed our terracotta and jute boho planter. I love the pop of colorful beads on the jute. Let me know what you think, guys. So that's all for today, and I really hope you liked the DIYs. If you did, give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments your thoughts on it. You can also follow me on Instagram at DustyHues. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next one.